Hi everyone, welcome to my new YouTube studio, or at least what it will be soon. It's basically just an empty room right now, because we've just moved away from Chiang Mai after living there for 5 years down to Hua Hin here, still in Thailand. And it's time to set up the new studio for that reason. So I take you on a journey here to set everything up with me so you can learn something about building your own YouTube or general video creation studio at home, or at least find some inspiration. And the room is actually not completely empty. I'm looking at quite a few packages here and all sorts of camera stuff from my old YouTube studios. So I would say it's time to unbox everything and set everything up. They actually have IKEA in Thailand. Now, before you even start building your YouTube studio, you should first think about what you actually want to achieve with it. Like, what should your YouTube studio do for you? In my case, for example, at first I want to record talking headshots, my A-roll obviously, and I want it to be as frictionless as possible. I want all the shooting to be as frictional as possible. That are my first two goals, like setting up a really beautiful talking head angle, but then also making it as easy as possible to record YouTube videos, because I'm extremely good at procrastinating. Like, it's really hard to get me to work. So the less things that come in between me and recording the video, the easier it is. And I also want to set up my video editing station, which also should allow me to record voiceovers quickly. Like in my old studio, I always had to set up some stuff to make it sound good. And of course, the YouTube studio should also store all my camera gear, or even show it in the background, because I think your studio also shows a bit of your personality, like what you like to do in your free time, and people can maybe see even how you work. It's, for example, one reason why I want to have my video editing set up in the background, so that I also show a bit of my life, essentially. Of course, my life is still like camera stuff all the time, so it's not too different, but you know what I mean. Like, especially if you have certain hobbies or so, make sure that that's somewhere placed in the background, because it tells something about you. And it's also about style, which we will come to in a second. I like when things work. So, setting your goals or objectives for the YouTube studio should be your first step, but it's not the only one. Before, you should also decide on the style of your YouTube studio, because I think style also reflects a bit of your personality. In my case, I had a pretty dark, rustic style before, which was nice, but I noticed that the pretty dark gray walls were actually hard to color grade, because getting that little bit of detail in the shadows so that it doesn't clip and looks good was actually quite difficult. So that's why I actually want to keep the white walls now here. And that's also why I've decided to go for something that matches that. However, I noticed already I wanted to have a bit brighter wood than that. It looked brighter on the internet, but that one here is now a bit darker. So I might replace that in the future. Have to see. If you don't know, I've actually been a carpenter back in Germany before I became a content creator. So yeah, it shouldn't be a big one. I just have to find a carpentry company here that can cut me that, and the rest I can do myself. It's not that difficult. So I definitely want to keep everything brighter now, and also have a nice minimalistic touch with a nice aesthetic, but I also want to have a bit of roughness in there, and that's why this industrial look here of this Fjällbo collection it is from IKEA. This is what I chose, and overall I like it a lot, but yeah, I think the color here on top I have to change, but not anytime soon. I need some money first. I spent quite a lot. I'll have to unbox and screw together some more furniture now, and then we come to the next step, which is to find the main angle in your YouTube studio.
Coco, who's that, huh? We cannot go out.
So next day already, it took a little while to build all the furniture up, but it's finally ready, as you can see. So it's time now to look for a camera angle, for a good one here in that room. And I'm going for a 24mm look. I want to get a 24mm 1.4 prime lens later to have a bit more background blur. But for now, I only have my 16 to 35mm zoom lens here at f2.8, so I'm just having it at 24mm to see around how it will look later. And now what people oftentimes tell you to do, at least in small YouTube rooms, to get a bit more depth, to have more background blur, is to shoot from one corner into the other, because then everything is a bit farther away. That's right, or it's generally better to do for small rooms, because you have that depth then and the room appears to be a bit bigger than it actually is. But in this room here, because it's already not small, definitely, it's like 4 by 3 meters around, maybe even a bit more if we count in the little niche here in the wall, then like here in this example, I don't really have to do that anymore. There's already enough depth. I'm at f2.8 here, 24mm. We're already getting a bit of background blur, and at f1.4 that will only be enough. So this is why this is not so important for this room, and that essentially gives me 3 angle options here, because I have 2 doors in that room here. At first I have one door here in the corner, which you can't really see. And I have this door here, which I don't really want to have in the shot, but maybe, who knows, if there's a bit more blur in the shot, it's not really a big issue. Then I also have the window here, which is small and doesn't look that nice, so I also don't want to have that in the shot. And I also have the niche here in the wall, which is actually quite nice to place all my lights and the camera and stuff without actually wasting space in the room. This is why I want to set everything up in this corner of the room, so that I can film into this side, and then I can place all the furniture here nicely so that it looks good. So in this room here, I already know that I definitely want to film from this corner. Question is, in what angle directly? And this here is the first one, which actually looks quite nice because I'm sitting perfectly centered in the room. We're having this leading lines here coming from the top and the bottom, which essentially point towards me. You can also see that here in the shelves. You're having leading lines pointing towards me, and that gives it a really nice framing. So I like this shot here. But what I don't like about it is that the desk here sits weirdly at the corner in this angle. This is not really nice, and so it feels a bit off. And I'm also not sure how I would place my furniture then, because in this position now, you would not be able to see my desk behind me, and this is an important part that I definitely want to show in the background. So I would either have to place the desk here on this side or on that side. I would have to see about that. Not a big issue. So this is the first angle. It looks nice. I like the framing here, but it's not perfect from other perspective or other aspects. That's why I will also try 2 other angles here. That's also what you should do when you set up your YouTube studio, even if you have set it up already but you didn't do this step. Just take your camera, get a bit around in the room and look for which angle looks nice, where you can place your furniture well, etc. So let's move the desk now. So this would be my second angle. What I don't like here is that you see the edge of the table and it's also not parallel. But on the other hand, it's a nice shot because it feels a bit more casual, like as you would have a casual conversation. That's oftentimes what people like on YouTube. Maybe I could even move the camera a little bit more to the right. Yeah, maybe something like that. It's actually also quite nice with natural light. I think the angle before looked a bit nicer, but on the other hand, this here would be how I would naturally place my desk, like right next to the wall, right next to the window. So it's quite natural here. I like this angle more from a practical point of view. I mean, the angle from the background is also not bad. Like I could place everything. Right, this chair won't exist later anymore. I will use a smaller chair so that you can see something. But here I also see that my desk again is hidden. Not ideal. I expected actually this is the angle that I will likely take, but no, I just changed my mind about it. So let's change the camera angle again and also the desk, so that I have the desk angled to the wall, similar to what I did in my previous studio. See how that looks. Oh yeah, that's overall pretty similar to before. It's my least favorite of those angles, honestly. Gao, can you come please? I need you for a moment. Which shot do you like best? Yeah, that desk will stand there. Yeah, because it's not really at a proper angle. Wife has spoken. We have a decision. It will be the first angle. Just have to figure out what to do with the door. But at first I will move everything around now for this shot. Then we're coming to the lighting. So we set up the angle now. I did one mistake. I set the camera up now on my Peak Design travel tripod. For setting up your camera angle, you should always use a heavy duty tripod, because if you slightly touch the tripod or so, you don't want it to move. It's the tripod here that I will use. It's just from a no-name brand, kind of Ji Young, China. I just bought it here in Thailand for super cheap, like over a year ago. It's just a heavy-duty tripod, and I don't expect too much from it because it only has to stand in the studio. I don't carry it around or anything, so there's no way to break it or so. That's why here in this case, I think you can just go for a super cheap tripod, but it's important it's a heavy one like that one here. You don't want to use a travel tripod for that because you don't want it to move around. So got the camera angle right and finally set up on a proper tripod. By the way, I used a measure tape here to place the camera perfectly in the center of the room, so I can be sure that everything looks right, because if I would now place the camera, let's say half a meter or even 30 centimeter or so off from the center, and I would somehow try to line it up that it looks nice here with the corners of the room, and then, you know, like those lines, they wouldn't be straight anymore and stuff. I want everything to be perfectly straight to have the best framing here. That's why it's important to place your camera as accurately in the center as possible. And now this should all stay as it is. I don't want anything to move anymore. So what you can also do after that is to put some tape or so on the floor to mark where everything stands, so it's easier for you to place it again in case you mess something up in the future. Maybe you have to change the camera on the tripod and you slightly move it or so, then it could also get out of frame. So it's been a few days. I've mostly set my YouTube studio up, but the light is still missing. We're coming to that very soon, and also the audio is still something that I have to improve in this room, as you might hear. But let me show you first a few things that I find pretty cool. At first, I used Velcro here to attach my battery chargers to that cupboard. Pretty nice, because I can at any time take them off to travel with them, but also I have it connected to that travel charger here, where the cables, USB-C cables, go down directly behind the cupboard, and so they're not really that visible, and I can just plug them in here to the battery chargers and charge my batteries without wasting much space. So of course I have my DJI batteries here, so it's not as elegant as Becky and Chris do with their pegboard design. That was a pretty cool video from them. But I think to keep it quite minimal without a pegboard here, it's actually a really nice solution. And I really like the furniture. It's a Fjällbo collection from IKEA, because here I can see through the doors what's in there, but it's still protected. So I see directly what gear I've stored where, because in the past when I had it in drawers and stuff, I always had to spend some time to find my gear again, but now I can see everything, and I also got a little bit more space with all the shelves that I have here. And I got those cable holders here, which are quite nice. They are magnetic, so I can quickly take all my small cables out that I often need and can quickly put them in again. It's a bit better because it's magnetically, so they hang in there instead of having this U shape always where you hang them in, because they often fall down, and here they cannot go anywhere. They don't fall down, but you still have quick access, and it's directly on my desk or next to my desk, so I can quickly grab them whenever I need. It saves me some time. And same shelf, I have my NAS server here for all the video footage connected to a UPS, because unfortunately there are occasional power cuts here in Thailand, and it's not good if that happens if I while I access my NAS server, because then the drives might get damaged, or the partitions at least. I actually had that one time, that's why I always use a UPS. I've also connected my Wi-Fi, etc. to the UPS, so I can work quite uninterruptedly when a power cut happens, at least for a certain amount of time. And next up is my desk, where I have a lot of cable management going on under it. First, of course, I use that hanger here to put the multi-plug in, so I can connect everything that's on my desk to there. And I always had the problem before that all the cables and the adapter here from that desk hang down, and now I fixed that finally, also by using Velcro. I used a lot of Velcro in the YouTube studio. Here it's just Velcro, and I can like tie that quickly, and it's all just taped, but the tape is really strong, it holds well. Look on Amazon what different types of Velcro stickers you have available, because there are so many different ones that you can use and that can really enhance your studio, at least clean it a bit up. But now it's finally time to come to the more important stuff, which is lighting. I got the Molus B100 light here as my key light, which I really like because 100 watts is actually enough for your YouTube studio key light. You don't need more, even 60 watt will most of the time do it. And this light here has the power adapter built into the light, so we only need a cable here. There's no adapter lying around somewhere, which I really like. So I can just attach the cable here to the light stand and it all looks nice and clean. And I got something new here, which is a 120 centimeter softbox. Bought that one from Godox. I used a 90 centimeter softbox before, which is generally enough, like usually for a YouTube studio, even 60 to 70 centimeters already do the job. But I want the light to be even softer now, and I also want it to equally light up my desk because I also want to get some B-roll shots there. It's basically too functional. I want to get B-roll and A-roll shots on that desk, so I need light that does both of it. So let's attach this softbox. I like how that looks. It's so big. Of course, we also need a grid here. What a grid does is it makes your light directional. So usually if I would turn that light on now, it would spill around everywhere in the room, and then I don't have control over the light in my background anymore. But I want control over that. We will come to that in a moment. But to prevent the spill, I will use this one here, simply a grid, so it only goes in the direction that I pointed to. Okay, we got that. Now we just have to position the light so it looks good on my face. For that I will just turn my other camera on and see how it goes. Now that's the nice thing about the Zhiyun lights. They come with the Zhiyun Vega app, and there I can simply choose the light that's on right now, and I can adjust the brightness from here, which is really nice. I do think now this light points a bit weird, like it also points to the background, so I want to lower it a little bit. It already looks better now, but my skin is still a little bit too dark. Like there's an exposure technique that makes it easy for you to expose for your face, and that is that you can activate the zebras in your camera. If you shoot in log, like I do here, S-Log3 on a Sony camera, and now for my skin, which is quite bright actually, that I need my skin tones, my bright skin tones, to be at around 75 plus minus 3% when it comes to the brightness levels. That's why I set the zebras to 75 plus minus 3. And now when it shows zebras on my skin, I know it's in the right range. It shows a little bit of zebra, but it could be a bit more. Make it a bit more equal. So I'm just raising the light now step by step until it's pretty good. Maybe a bit more. Looks good. I set the light now to 43%, which is quite a lot. Usually I'm more at like 10 to 20%, but this is now because the light source is so big, 120 centimeters, so it needs a bit more light to fill that out. And next we'll have to work on the background. Now here's the thing. If you work with normal lights in the background, then you should turn your background lights on first and adjust your key light to those background lights, and then use your camera to expose darker or brighter. Because if you use normal lights in the background, you usually can't control the brightness of those lights. Only option you have is to buy brighter or darker light bulbs. Usually I would go for something between 4 and 8 watts. For a YouTube studio like that, because otherwise your lights might be a bit too bright in the background, and you don't want your background to be too bright. It should be slightly darker than you, because then you pop a bit more from the background. So with such lights, the only option that you really have is to make your key light brighter and then make it darker in camera, because the brighter your key light is, the darker you need to expose in your camera, either via VND filter, via aperture, or via shutter speed. Doesn't really matter. It depends what look you're going for and how much motion blur is important for you. You can watch my camera basics guide for that. I will link it here. And then by making it darker in your camera, it essentially means that the brightness of your face stays about the same, but the background becomes darker. Because if your key light is brighter, but the lights in the background keep the same brightness level, that means that the contrast or the difference between the brightness of your face and the background changes, so that the background essentially appears darker because you lower the exposure in your camera. That's how we would usually do it. But luckily, I invested in some smart light bulbs from TP-Link. They are called Tapo. And this is quite nice because now I can also use my phone again to control the wall lights in the background. And I also got those light bulbs for the ceiling light because I noticed while I was sitting here that the ceiling light actually gives me a bit of a nice hair light effect. And that is something I really like. You see, it just turned on. But I must say now, the background is way too bright. I definitely want to have it darker to pop. So here now with those smart lights, I can simply go in there and change the brightness. 10% for the ceiling lights. It's quite dark. I think the key light also does its part here. So I had to fiddle a bit around with the lighting to make it work. Essentially, I brought the key light a bit closer because that allowed me to tone the light down because it spilled quite a bit around in the room. And I also reduced the intensity of the ceiling light a bit. And therefore now the background is quite a bit darker, which I like because now I can be intentional with what I light up in the room and whatnot. Like here, for example, I placed a light to light up my YouTube trophy or whatever you want to call it. And here for the lenses and stuff. So that already makes it a bit better. But I still feel there's something missing in this room. And there is where my kind of special tool, which SmallRig just sent me, comes into play. This is the SmallRig RF10C, which is a focusable video light, which works a bit different than normal video lights, like my key light here. So let me show you what you can do with it. There are filters in this light, and that allows you to put something like that here on your walls. So it looks a bit like there would light come now from a window. Can also change the color of it. I think you have to press it for that. Yeah. So now we're getting it quite warm there. So I can essentially make my studio look a bit like we would be shooting during sunset time. And that's really what I want to do here, because you see like this wall looks so empty, and that's why I want to place something like that on the wall here to give it a cool look and to also fill up the space a little bit. I have one problem though, and that is that the ideal positioning would be somewhere around here, but then the light would be in the shot. And that leads us to the second tool that SmallRig sent me. It's essentially an overhead rig. Oh, you can attach a camera here so that I have my overhead rig, but we're also having so-called magic arm with a C-clamp, which I can use to attach on the top here. And then I can attach this light to the arms. So this overhead rig ideally should allow me to hold both my camera for overhead shots, but also the light here. So I really hope it works. They say it can hold up to 3 kilograms. So we'll soon figure out if that's true or not. Important for overhead rigs is that you mount your quick release plate vertically, like here, because if you mount your camera in here like that and you don't close it perfectly, then the camera still can't fall out. Like if I would mount that horizontally here and I would not perfectly close it, the camera could fall out. So always mount that vertically like that. By the way, the XM5 from Fuji might actually be a good overhead camera because it's so lightweight. I think my bigger cameras will have a problem there. Oh yeah, yeah! That looks nice. It really has something, yeah? Could be a little bit smaller, I think, but now I think that this side here looks a bit empty. I don't know, it's like too dark. I would have to do something. Like an idea that I had was that I would hang curtains around that door and place a very flat LED light inside so that it looks like the sun would also shine through that window. I would make it look like a window then. But I'm not sure, like I can't make it work now. I really can't spend more money right now. I will have to look about that in the future, but I'm still experimenting around now to find a solution to make this corner look a little bit better. Now that's what I call perfect timing. Just got a delivery here with a photo that I printed, which I will use as a gap filler there. And I actually have to record my first video today. So I will also have to set up the soundproofing as well. But first let's get that into position. Go. So I'm basically looking at the live feed here now on my iPad so I can see the positioning well. Up please, a bit higher and more to the left. It's the thing when you have cats. Yeah, that looks pretty good, definitely better than before. Filled some empty space there. I already got my microphone set up here, the MKE 600. Use this desk-mounted boom arm here for that, but you can probably still hear a bit of room tone. That's what we're coming to next. I got a bit of soundproofing here, which I will just attach to the walls to make it a bit better. The furniture already helps a bit, the carpet as well. Definitely the more soft material you have in your room, the better it gets. So if you have space for a sofa, for example, that definitely helps. But if not, just mount those things here on the wall. You can just order them on Amazon. I will leave a link in the description. And I use that double-sided 3M tape here because that is easy to remove from the walls, because I rented this house here. So I don't want to break anything, and you usually only need about maybe 2 centimeters or so from there, actually less, and then you can easily remove them in the future. So let's set that up and I can finally shoot my first video in the studio. Coco, what are you doing there? Ugh, kids. Coco, yeah. I have to run away from daddy, eh? Yeah. So it's finally done after about 2.5 weeks of working on this studio. Now the sound definitely sounds better than before, but I can still hear quite a bit of room tone. So I will have to look around what I can do in the future to make it even better. But I also want to test here it now how bad it actually sounds, or not bad maybe, when I edit it on my computer. Because AI voice isolation usually also gets rid of a bit of room tone, so it might actually be fine. There's one thing I forgot to mention if you're starting out right now with the video. The reason why I use a shotgun microphone here and like that over the table is that I want to have it as close to my mouth as possible, because the closer a microphone is to your mouth, the better it generally sounds because of that proximity effect. So that's why I brought the microphone just slightly out of frame here so you can't see it, but it's still very close to my mouth, like around maybe 1.5 hands length, and my hands are small. So this is how I did that, and I also use my iPad Pro here now as a monitor so I can see myself while I'm talking. And there I have a little tip for you. Like usually it's pretty hard to use those apps, like you always have connection issues and it takes super long until it even connects. And that makes the connection to your iPad, iPhone or whatever you want to use a lot better. Like it pretty much instantly connects when you open the app, and you also have less issues, I've noticed. It's still not perfect, like you have to turn the camera on first and wait maybe 10-15 seconds to be absolutely sure that it's connected to the Wi-Fi network, and then you should start the app and connect to the camera and click on operate your camera, because otherwise it might still try to connect directly to the camera via Wi-Fi. So wait a second and turn the camera on first, and that will work great. But in the future I also think of getting a proper monitor, because that's even quicker and easier to set up. And overall, I'm super happy with this setup already when it comes to productivity, what I mentioned in the beginning, that I want to make everything a bit easier and quicker for myself, because already a few days ago, I shot some B-roll here on that table, and it was so fast. It only took me about 2 minutes. Like I only had to put my camera here in the overhead compartment. Actually, the Fujifilm X-M5 turns out it's a really nice camera for that. And I only turned the light on like I always do now from my A-roll, which I can actually do via a Siri shortcut. I come to that in a second. And I directly got the shot. I also had less issues here because the table is a bit brighter as my old table. That means that on my old table, my fingers were usually a bit too bright on such shots, and then I had to balance that with the table. And here, it's a lot more balanced directly. Like I don't have to do much color grading anymore. So much about shooting product B-roll. It's super good now how fast it goes. But let's come to the shortcuts, which are even better. Hey Siri, video lights off. Hey Siri, video lights on. Hey! It all turns on directly. Actually, this light here, the small rig light for emulating that sunset window here, I still have to turn on manually, but aside from that, it's perfect. I do have a few more shortcuts, which I can't really show you because every time I activate such a shortcut, the key light here turns off and that also deactivates my audio. So can't show you that, but essentially I have one preset for evening light to have it nice and warm, one preset for color grading when I color grade in a relatively dark room, but I don't want to have it perfectly dark, and the light should be neutral. And also throughout the day I have a preset for turning the ceiling light on because the room is actually quite dark throughout the day. There's only one little window inside here, so it's better to have a bit more additional light as well. And the key light from Xiaoyun also has an app where I can control the brightness quickly, and I have another preset there which allows me to quickly change the intensity of the light to 100% brightness, which is great if I want to quickly shoot some product b-roll here in 120 frames per second for slow motion, because it's actually quite easy to shoot product b-roll. If you set your camera to 120 frames per second, you can essentially just move your hands for a second and you already have 5 seconds of usable video footage. So this is what I actually do a lot, but aside from that, also again, overhead shots here work great, and I also have that camera slider in the background, which is also set up so that I can quickly get shots here off the desk. And when it comes to shooting videos, I have another one here. This is my second light, the Xiaoyun Modus B500 with a 90 centimeter softbox. Super nice light, and as you can see, I mounted that on a, what is it called, a tripod dolly, so I can just roll that around my room wherever I want. Here, have a look. So for example, when I want to record a video editing tutorial on my video editing desk there, I can quickly put the light there. I have a tripod here, which I keep at the same height all the time. I don't adjust it, which is perfectly adjusted for the height that I need there. So I just place the tripod there, place the light there within 1 minute, put the camera on a tripod, press record, and I can start recording. What also helps is that I have the Shure MV7 microphone there. Here. That's a really nice microphone because it comes even closer to my mouth, so it's actually in the frame, but therefore I get really nice audio quality. And it's good there because the room tone in this area is even worse actually, because there's not much soundproofing, and I don't want anything there because it looks so nice and minimalistic. So yeah, no soundproofing there, therefore I use another microphone. So that's all the improvements basically when it comes to shooting videos here. Maybe it doesn't sound like a lot, but it actually makes a huge difference in everyday life. Because, for example, imagine a situation I'm sitting on my computer and edit a video, then I recognize I quickly need some more product b-roll shots to show something or to at least make the video not be too boring. Then instead of having to set up everything and wasting another hour, I literally just stand up, can turn the overhead camera on here, place the product in there, show something, or I can quickly put a tripod here with the other camera and get the shot. And it takes 2 to 5 minutes to get that. Can directly put the SD card in my MacBook and continue editing. It makes such a big difference. So everything is super nice, but it's not perfect yet. One problem is still that I don't have a stationary camera here. So I always have to take the camera off the tripod and put it back on there. This is something I want to improve in the future. I will most likely buy a Panasonic S5 Mark II together with the Sigma 24mm f1.4 and the XLR adapter on top, because right now still use the Zoom F3 adapter for the XLR output from a microphone. And that's not really good because it oftentimes just stops working for no reason or whatever. So I would just prefer to have an XLR input via Hotshoe directly. With the S5 Mark II I can get all of that, and this camera also has a fan. So even if I record for many hours here for an online course or something like that, I can totally do that. So that's definitely another addition of my studio in the future. I'm also thinking of actually purchasing a Fujifilm X-M5 only for that overhead rig here, because open gate recording in 6.2K is great, because sometimes I might not have the product perfectly in the center and I miss that, so I can easily reframe that. And also 10-bit obviously is something that I want to have locked. And the downsides of this camera don't really matter because it doesn't have to have great autofocus because you're in manual focus anyway. And also the sensor doesn't have to be stabilized because the camera doesn't move. So actually a perfect camera for a setup like that. It still gives you really nice quality. So adding stationary cameras is definitely another improvement that I will add to the studio in the future. Another one that I'm really excited about using a lot more in the next few weeks, months, whatever this year is the new tripod here from Small Rig and Potato Jet, the Tribex, because that one extends so fast. Look at it. Choop. That's so great. That will also make shooting videos this year a lot easier. A video about this tripod will come out in a few days, so subscribe for that. And if you want to know about another tool that can make your YouTube studio and all video setups, really, or most of them, look better, then check out this video here. It's about a fog machine, and I can guarantee you that adds something new to your videos. So check it out. And yeah, I hope we will have a lot of fun this year in this studio. So definitely don't forget to subscribe, and I see you in upcoming videos. Bye.